summer. Coheed and Cambria and Taking Back Sunday are coming to the Armory on August 20th with special guest Foxing. Tickets go on sale this Friday at 10 a.m. Don't miss out. Get all the details at KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
13-14 pastime comedies tend to be the legendary Mark Rosen, formerly of Channel 4 Sports. He's your whole life for sports fame, joins us now, and I just find it interesting. I'm a very observant person.
Yes.
Human behavior I have a keen interest in, and I think the last 2 weeks that you've come into studio, you're wearing some garish Vikings hoodie or shirt or something. And now there's no Vikings anymore.
I wore it one day.
I thought it was every day. I thought you wore Viking hoodies and such. And Viking
I only have like one.
And now you're done with the team, it looks like to me.
Well, I'm done with the team. I just put on a green sweatshirt today.
Oh, like Green Bay now? Or Milwaukee?
I just...
Eagles.
Oh,
yeah.
E-A-G-L-E.
Correct, yeah. Okay, Mike Tice. Yeah, no,
Aren't you something?
Yeah, I know. I try to take, a big lens look at the whole thing at the day after, even though it's still pretty fresh in everyone's mind. And I have a flashback to us being at, training camp and watching the team work out and, kind of looking at each other. Who's that guy? Who's this Van Ginkel kid? Who's Grenard? We know Blake Cashman, and they're all fitting pieces in. Oh, they got that J.J. McCarthy. I can't wait to see him play this preseason. And, the whole story. So, and then you look at the preseason predictions of every prognosticator that I saw, and I never saw anyone picking the Vikings above fourth. Maybe one picked them to finish third, around 500. 7 wins, 8 wins, whatever it might be, and figure they're going to muddle through the season, and then, they kind of under the cloak of darkness, basically, go ahead and win 14 games. Not many of them were, nationally televised. They beat some good teams, beat some mediocre teams, and find themselves in a position, a week ago Sunday, of playing for the number 1 seed. They hoisted Sam Darnold on their shoulders in the locker room after beating the Packers. The whole... shooting match. It looked like, and KOC was saying all the right things, pushing all the right buttons. Arguably, according to the players, one of the tightest locker rooms. Harrison Smith, who was very emotional after the game last night, probably because this was likely his last game, saying this is the best group I've played with. The whole type of thing felt like more like a college atmosphere in there. And then we all know what happened in Detroit. They had plentiful of chances in the red zone, and they didn't capitalize. Really a downer of a night because they had a chance to get a bye and host every game they were going to participate in here at U.S. Bank, which of course makes a difference to them. And yet, okay, now you got to go on the road and play the Rams, and they're still favored.
They're neutral site.
Yeah, neutral site as it turns out.
More Viking fans.
Yeah,
apparently.
a little bit more. It didn't seem like it was
I
one-sided.
counted each and every one of them.
But, the Rams were carrying, I think, a bigger burden and feeling, the pain and of the threshold of what was been going on in Los Angeles. I think, and kudos to the Arizona Cardinals.
You think that made a difference?
I think emotionally it probably helped. I don't know if in the course of the game, the X's and O's, but I think it did. Yeah. Again, kudos to the Arizona Cardinals. But, by all accounts, people I know, obviously the organization, they went way out of their way to help make this thing happen, and the very difficult logistics and manpower and security and everything else. But, the Vikings win the toss, and I said this to myself. I said, take the ball. Don't defer to the second half, because I like when they get the ball, and they usually, KOC had a lot of good fortune this year scoring on their first drives. Don't defer. Just get it. And especially after what happened last week, don't make Darnold wait.
So the coach is 0-1 to start the game in your eyes. He's already made one bad decision.
I felt that. It wasn't like it was going to be the deciding factor, but I liked...
So the first decision of the game,
I wanted Darnold. I wanted the offense to get the hands on the ball. I didn't want him waiting in the wings, watching Matthew Stafford do exactly what he ended up doing. I mean, Sean McVay had that team. Brian Flores scouted out to a T, and he probably learned a lot from watching what Aaron Glenn did defensively. But offensively, Sean McVay, it was surgical. It went right down the field. First pass to Nakua, 27 yards or 23 yards, what it was. Another one to Higbee, who eventually got hurt. Bullard goes offsides on a 4th and 1, and then he throws an easy touchdown pass to take a 7-0 lead. What do the Vikings do? They get the ball and they go 3 and out. Yeah. I went, not good. And then, they kicked a field goal to make it 10-0, and it feels like the game's already kind of slipping away. Well, the Vikings come back and kick a field goal, and then the key play, I still, they ruled it a forward pass, shovel pass, whatever.
It was.
I mean, it was close, but it was. The interpretation. I turned over, I saw the Mannings and Belichick, and they were all up in arms about it.
They thought it should have been a fumble?
Yeah. I mean, it was, but, again, would that have twisted the fate of this game?
Do you think Peyton Manning says it's a fumble? If that's him throwing that ball, I guarantee it's a forward pass.
I just...
Oh, yeah, he would. Both of them would. And Belichick would say the same thing if it would have been Brady during a game that he was in.
Yeah.
They're frauds.
They might be.
I mean, he was a throwing motion. I don't know how you define throwing motion.
Well,
and look, I thought when they got the touchdown, it looked like, here we go.
Right.
This is the break we've been waiting for.
Correct.
Forced a turnover. What they've done one thing more than any other team in the league, and that's create turnovers.
Correct.
At least, I don't know if they have the most turnovers, but they're the only team to create at least one turnover a game for all 17 games. And then when I saw it, I thought, there's no way that can be. And then when you watch it, I go, all I know is if that's Sam Darnold doing that, Viking fans are going, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So
arm was going forward.
I don't really like it. I think it's one of those where you go.
If, to me, if nothing else, it should have been intentional grounding. But that's neither here nor there. I mean, the Vikings still have to find a way of overcoming it because, they had there was a roughing the kicker penalty, so the Vikings kept the ball. They were in good position. Then on 3rd and 8,
was that a make good? Do you think? Because they felt bad about
I don't know. It looked like it was kind of a shaky roughing the kicker penalty. I don't know how. What's a guy named who should have blocked that punt at the Rams? I don't know how he missed the ball.
He had his hands pointed down toward the ground instead of straight up in the air.
It was crazy.
I don't think they're teaching the finer points of blocking punts like they did when I played football back in.
Well, Bud was the best at it. Yeah, Matt Blair. No one was better than the late great Matt Blair.
Because I played both sides of the ball.
But then they had the Vikings got the ball at midfield and another chance to move in and tie the game up. I'm listening. Darnold, I think he hit his hand on O'Neill's helmet and had this poor pass intercepted for Addison, and that led to.
What about the decision when it was 17-3?
Yep.
Under 2 minutes, 4th and 2 around midfield. Vikings.
Right.
O'Connell decides
to go for it.
He feels, I think, right then we can't punt the ball. We got to try to get a first down. Well, I agreed with the decision, to be honest, though. I did look at Deuce and say, this could end up being one of the biggest plays of the game because if they don't get it, I got to think the Rams are going to score, and they did, right? Didn't the Rams punch it in and go to 24-3?
Yeah. Well, I think he realized that their offense has to do something.
Yeah.
And taking a page out of Danny Campbell's 4th down and go for it book, which he would have gone for when you're sitting at midfield. I didn't have a problem with it because I think the Vikings had to be aggressive. They're down by 14 points. They got to try to score before halftime. Then they get the ball back to start the 3rd quarter. So,
But that's the thing. If they punt the ball, they'd have been able to pin them back with our punter more than likely.
Well, maybe.
17-3 at the half, and you get the ball, and what if you score? Now it's 17-10. It's a new ball game. No, I agree with it. I'm just saying I'm playing devil's advocate here. You could make an argument that they should have punted the ball away.
Could have. I just think it's a bigger picture thing because we all know what happened the rest of the game. The Vikings' offensive line got destroyed, and that's a big area of concern going forward. I mean, now you're looking at big picture things because the 9 quarterback sacks, Darnold held on to the ball too long, probably half of them. Other times, he just got bulldozed over. They didn't have a safety valve. They couldn't come up with anything, and just like you as a Viking fan, if you're watching this, you're going, I can't believe this horror show is happening again in the postseason because it's not even like they were competitive at that point. Now you're looking at how did this team win 14 games and what are they doing here? And then as the game goes on and thinking, well, I don't think they're going to put Mullins in, and it doesn't seem to be that's going to change the flavor of anything.
I don't think that makes a difference.
And now you're sitting here and it's they go out with a thud and in a situation where a week ago they had 14 wins playing for the number 1 overall seed, and then they're just kind of like, does it feel like all those 14 wins were for naught?
Aikman said it. Aikman said it in the telecast last night. He goes, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah, I know what you were going to say.
You can look at it any way you want, but it really, it was for naught. It was for nothing. It was you won all those games and you got nothing out of it. There's no payoff. Didn't even advance one game and get into that divisional round. And then, maybe at least get a chance to get beaten in an NFC Championship game again and go 0 for 7 since our last appearance in the big game. But they didn't even get a chance to do that.
No, and they probably wouldn't have had any. I know they would have found a way of beating the Rams last night, but going into Philadelphia. But I think you look at the teams that are the top seeds, and I think the first thing that comes to mind, I think both Detroit and Philadelphia have arguably the 2 best offensive lines in football. Pick your poison, which one, but they both are really accomplished.
By Pro Bowl voting, you would say the Eagles. I think the Eagles have 3 linemen.
And the Vikings are going to have to blow up the interior of that line, and that's just a fact, and they know it. I mean, that's going to be, I think, I'm saying in free agency, probably priority number 1. Obviously, the quarterback situation is laid out there now, where Darnold cost himself a ton of money in the last 2 weeks. They could potentially still bring him back if it's a team friendly contract and see where JJ is.
I think he's gone. I do too. I think they want JJ to start, and that's why Danny Jones is there.
Yeah, if Danny Jones decides to stick around,
I think he will. Well, because here's the thing with Danny Jones. See, he believes the quarterback whisper stuff. He was excited. Mm-hmm. He probably looked at Darnold and said, "Yeah, I can do that."
Yeah,
it has to be the quarterback whisperer. I'm not convinced it's all KOC. Well, I'll give him his props and say, he's good with quarterbacks, but I still think people underrate spending a year with San Francisco. And that's what Darnold did. And then you got to give the guy that makes the plays part of the credit. Sam Darnold's not a robot.
Right.
It's not like you just program and he goes out there. Year. He was really good this year.
That's the disturbing part about where that guy went. I mean, he was able to kind of maneuver his way through the pocket a lot of times, including against the Packers, against some good rushing defensive linemen. KOC just got out-coached last night. I mean, he just did. I mean, McVay, his mentor, took him behind the old coaching woodshed last night and did it again.
I got a couple of other thoughts about the game that I want to bounce off and get your opinion on.
Sure.
We'll continue to talk the aftermath of the Vikings' disappointing loss to the Rams. Tenneby, as you get ready to give a keyword when you're done, if you could jump on the phone, because I'd like to make that last giveaway. Flop, Sweat, and Tears tour continues. I know Mark is buying tickets. This Friday, New Hope Cinema Grill, Meat Sauce, Common, Larry Mondello Guy, and Colleen Justice. Show starts at 7:30. Tickets are available now at cinemagrill.com. Or if you'd like to win a pair, be the 11th caller at 1-800-320-5326. 5326. 11th caller win tickets to see Flop, Sweat, and Tour Saturday. Tenneby now has a keyword for us.
Yeah, the fan wants to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand with our national cash contest. Just enter the keyword money at KFAN.com now for your shot at winning. The keyword is money. Enter now at KFAN.com.
Tenneby, did you give away those Flop, Sweat, and Tears tour tickets, and how excited was the winner?
I did give them away, and man, the amount of screaming that came from the other end of that phone was outrageous.
Sauce, Common, Clean, Justice, and Larry Mondello Guy would be like seeing Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello, Stiller and Mira, and Sacco and Benzetti all on the same night. That's how big it's going to be. It's going to be a hell of a show.
Well, Sauce has got to have some new material, being a dad now. And,
well, I already heard it. He gave me the link. He said, if you ever go on to Target to get diapers and come home with Home Alone 3 on Blu-ray DVD.
So it is changed. He did change his material.
From socks to diapers.
Right.
So it's different.
Same thing.
He did a nice job changing up his material. He works hard at it. Think about it. A guy who went from being booed off the stage about 6 to 8 weeks ago is now headlining.
How about that?
Cinema Grill. It's the greatest comeback since Lazarus. Or since the Vikings beat the Colts all those years ago. Yep. You know, one of the most underrated coaching decisions I think we've seen, and I think it's going to change the way a lot of coaches approach the last week of the season. Rams had a chance to get the 3 seed.
Yeah, they did.
Had they won. Mm-hmm. And for Sean McVay, it was more important to get that extra week's rest. Yeah. So instead of it playing on week 17, having the week off, and people, when I say week off, I don't care what you say. They have 6 days before they play. Then they get another 7 days. So basically 2 weeks before getting contact. That team looked fresh. You know what helped all the players on the team? Every player says it. There's nobody that doesn't have bumps and bruises, aches and pains, or actual injuries they're playing through.
Right.
And they just seemed refreshed. They came out of the gate quickly. And his quote was, when they asked him about it, he said, well, we respect everybody, but we fear nobody. And I thought that was a brilliant decision because had they fought, I quite frankly thought Campbell made a blunder when he had them give everything they had against San Francisco. I thought, the game doesn't mean anything, man. What are you doing?
They still got the extra week now.
But that's his mentality, and that's what we do. And it worked. They won the game, and I don't think they had any major injuries in that game, so it worked out. But I think that was a
the
really
Rams.
What would they have won had they tried to win that game? The last week of the season, I don't know, but.
Well, they're for the most part, obviously they have a lot of young kids in that defense, really talented through the draft that they built. But they got off to a slow start. Were they 1-4? I think when they played the Vikings, they were 2-4 in October, and they came back and won that game. I think pretty easily, as it turned out, in SoFi Stadium. But McVay knew how to kind of bring them along, and they're not that far removed. And Matthew Stafford still looked like a cagey, gunslinging veteran who knows the ins and outs of the game, and I have a lot of admiration for him, the way he plays, and I would not be surprised at all if they beat Philadelphia. I think Detroit's going to destroy Washington.
Really?
Yeah. Talking about a fresh team. Ooh. Yeah, I do. I think
Washington club is really good.
They're okay.
That quarterback is...
He's fun. No, he's terrific. Jaden Daniels is wonderful.
I hope you're right. I'd love to see the Kitties
I just
win,
think the Kitties are going to be... I think that extra week, playing at home, I don't see Washington's defense slowing them down. They get David Montgomery coming back. So I think it's going to be
Sonic
Detroit.
And Knuckles is what we call the
I think it's going to be Detroit and the Rams in the NFC title game in Motown.
What do you think? What about the AFC title game? What do you think that'll be?
Well, I think the winner. Obviously, it's pick your poison. I mean, that's the heavyweight battle of all on Sunday night between Baltimore and Buffalo.
Who do you like?
Slight edge to the Ravens, but not much. I mean, Josh Allen is playing at such a high level right now with a bunch of no-name receivers, but he's making But I just think Lamar Jackson and Baltimore are pretty special. So I look for Baltimore KC in the AFC finals, and I'm hopeful that Baltimore can pull it off because, with all due respect to Patrick Mahomes, I want to see someone else.
A fresh face, some new blood.
Yeah, I mean, Baltimore's been there, obviously, but it's been a while. But, who knows? But I think that's the game. Obviously, that's the game of the weekend is Baltimore and Buffalo.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Though I think a close second is Rams-Philly.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that'll be...
I like it. I like the matchup.
Yeah, especially after watching the Rams last night and see how they match up against an Eagles offense, which I think is pretty stagnant other than Saquon Barkley. But, it's a good matchup between two really good teams.
It was a quiet night for the so-called best wide receiver in pro football, the highest paid player outside of a quarterback. That would be Justin Jefferson, or is what I like to call him. I call him Jets.
Yeah.
Quiet last night by his standards, 5 for 50.
2 weeks in a row.
5 for 58, 2 weeks in a row. He had a number of games this year that were quiet. He had a lot of big games, too.
Right.
Is last night, is any of that on him? Is he not getting open? I know he was open in the previous game. He got open a few times, and Darnold just flat out missed him.
Yeah, he did. He missed him a couple times there.
And certainly, I'm not suggesting the Vikings should trade Justin Jefferson. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just saying, I don't know if last night, if a guy that's that highly regarded, you're paying him that kind of money, does he have to find a way, or was that just totally out of his hands?
Well, I think a lot of it was out of his hands. Yeah. I mean, you're not looking at the wide angle, all 22, as they say. I mean, you don't know. I mean, he was getting double covered a lot, and the Rams were sticking to him, quite a bit. But there are lots of ways a quarterback and can try to get the ball. And I know they tried one time. Darnold didn't throw the ball, that little bubble screen. They wanted to throw to him a couple times. One time they threw it to him, and they didn't have much success with that play at all. But I think that's going to be a thing that KOC is really going to have to dig deep into, and Wes Phillips. Whether J.J. McCarthy next year, more slants, more opportunities. You've got to get the ball in that guy's hands even more. I mean, he's your moneymaker. And, there are other wide receivers in the league who find a way. And I'm not saying it's on Jets. I mean, a lot of times, Darnold was probably looking and much to chagrin of other wide receivers being open. Of course, one time last night, he had Naylor wide open and threw way behind him.
Well, even in that last drive, there were several really nice catches by Viking wide receivers.
Yeah,
they had to make contorted catches.
Correct.
I mean, they weren't, they weren't like Odell one-handing it or anything, but they were behind him. So his throws, even when he was making some completions, weren't, he wasn't throwing many dimes last night.
I think the breakdown is pretty obvious. I mean, he held on the ball too long, and a number of times. Other times, he got just bull rushed and didn't have an opportunity, and so it's probably like everything else. It's always a combination of things with Justin Jefferson and this connection with the quarterback. But what was upsetting, and again, it's an area that they have to really also figure out. As effective as Aaron Jones can be, again, he's dinged up a lot, and we saw that. I mean, that's probably why the Packers decided to move off from him, and they brought in Jacobs. But it seems like he spends time in the training room almost every game. And I know he's a gutsy player. He's been the heart and soul of the running back, but it's difficult to rely on him and think that the running game was going to try to. They kept trying it, and they tried it, and the Rams were vulnerable against about the running game, but they didn't have a lot of success. Akers had one nice run. They had to bring Ty Chandler in because Jones was banged up. I think Akers it was just. That's an area they have to try to improve on as well. But I think that also goes hand in hand with the offensive line and what they have to do to really reinforce the bodies up front. If you're going to try to compete with, again, the Lions in particular in their division, that's what Detroit did so effectively with the draft. They got those monster linemen who were so good.
It did seem that the Rams were very successful quadrupling Darnold. Thank you.
Very funny.
They were.
Can't argue with that.
And I was wondering when they were going to stop calling that play, Darnold gets sacked. Because that just wasn't working.
That wasn't working out real well.
And we went back to it over and over and over again.
Time and time again.
It didn't make any sense to me.
No.
I got a number of other questions I want to bounce off you regarding the games and the NFL. We'll do that other side of the break. Common Man program with Tenneby, Common, and Mark Rosen here on The Fan. Today's program. Tomorrow, the Ben Johnson Show at 12 noon. You know, those Gopher coaches shows, the PJ Fleck and Ben Johnson Show have always been Tuesdays.
Right.
Ben's switched his, I think, for the remainder of the year. Is that right, Tenneby? Or at least for the next few?
I believe that's correct, yeah.
At least for the next few Wednesdays, for sure. He's moving his to Wednesday at 12 noon. So Tuesdays will be noon to 3. And now tomorrow we'll get underway with the program starting at 1 o'clock. And there was another loss last night for the Gophers.
Got his hands full.
There was a piece written by Marcus Fuller, does a great job covering the Gophers for Fisher Up Factory West, and certainly the nil has something to do with it because they lost some players to nil. But and again, I don't want to throw the coach under the bus because it's hard when all of a sudden you do recruit players and they leave for greener pastures. But until they it takes more than just a handful of players. Big Ten, man, it's every game. It's a street fight, as Mike Tyson would say, and it's hard.
Well, it's the responsibilities of a head basketball coach now in college go way beyond the X's and O's, and I think you see that with institutionally what Ben Johnson or any other coach has to do. I think PJ Fleck has done obviously under the circumstances, and even for next year with the nil money and being as aggressive as he possibly can. It's a different sales. You got to be a salesman as well, and you always had to be when you're recruiting kids, but now in particular, because there's a financial aspect to it. And I'm not throwing Ben under the bus with that, but I just think that, it takes a special, especially the competitive aspect of it. And we know how many good high school basketball players there are in this state year in, year out. And as they say, trying to close the borders and keeping the majority of them, or a few of them, to come to Minnesota is getting tougher and tougher. I don't know where it stands right now with all the nil money, but it's really it's a really difficult thing to watch right now with what's going on for long time college basketball fans like myself and many others, especially with the barn and the tradition and the legacy of what's going on there. It's hard to watch because they're just they're not competitive right now.
Tennessee. A lot of people would like that miss the montage to start the day, the sad eyes, and they'd like to end the show with it. Can we do that? Can you time it?
If you want to.
Well, because we played,
I didn't hear it.
It's sort of like a Brian Dunsing sweater to you. It's very comfortable.
Brian Dunsing.
And people don't feel like that the season is, the book is completely closed until they hear, because we end every season with sad eyes.
Right.
Tennessee will play that to end the show.
Okay.
So that'll cut into us about 3.5 minutes or so, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Back to the Vikings for a moment.
Yes, sir.
So, okay, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about the future, but I think if there was any question that Darnold will be back, there's no way, right?
I don't see it. I said it last night in the postgame show right away. I think we've seen Sam Darnold throw his last pass. I think you could see it on KOC's face as well, that it was like, I can't. I think he pushed this as far as he possibly could. I think that you got the most out of Sam Darnold that you possibly can get, and that's a lot, because no one had any idea this guy was going to potentially be able to lead them to 14 wins this year. And, he was named player of the month or player of the week.
He was player of the month one time.
I mean, and he was, all pro and Pro Bowl player. And I mean, he accomplished things that no one ever thought possible. And I mean, it's certainly KOC deserves his lion's share of the credit, but so does Sam Darnold. But, there's a point where you play the top teams and you kind of, as even Darnold said, you define your legacy in games like last week and last night. And 0 for 2. I mean, not just in terms of, man, I went down swinging. I threw 3 touchdown passes, and they just outscored us. And Matthew Stafford's been around the block a few times, and they won, 31-28. But I did my part. I don't think anyone came away the last 2 weeks going, oh, man, I think Darnold's a guy I want to keep looking at.
Yep. I agree.
And that's the difficult part. I mean, I'm not suggesting he's not going to get a job next year, but he lost millions of dollars the last 2 weeks. And that's, he's just something that's just the reality of the situation. So, like I said, we don't know how it's going to flush out with, and we know J.J. McCarthy's, in his eyes. I mean, he's had a full year, not to be able to practice. We're talking about practice, but obviously absorb what KOC wants from him. He's been attending all the meetings and everything else. And, he didn't have an ACL surgery. He had, meniscus surgery, and he should be fine. And given what we've seen out of the other rookie quarterbacks this year, including one who's continuing to play in Jaden Daniels, and I kind of go back to what you said even at the beginning. Why not McCarthy? Why not now? I mean, what are you waiting for? I mean, get him out there. And if you have a veteran quarterback, when you will, backing him up, whether it be a Mullins or a Daniel Jones, so be it. But J.J. McCarthy should be the starting quarterback for this team next year if he's healthy, and he's healthy. And so,
yeah, I would imagine he would be. I can't see where Daniel Jones will make some type of metamorphosis. I mean, he's got skills. I think Jones he believes in the quarterback whisperer stuff. Yeah. He's thinking to himself, look what he did for Sam Darnold. I think he could do that for me. I tend to think that the quarterback whisperer stuff's a little overrated. I think he does have it. I think he does know how to coach quarterbacks up. I think he does. I think the opinion of a lot of Viking fans is he's like Midas. Any quarterback he touches, boom, he's going to be great. part of what you saw the last two games, some of that's got to go on the head coach, too. If you're going to give him all the credit,
right,
which everybody wanted to say, well, the only reason Sam Darnold played like he did is because of KOC.
Right.
I don't believe it, but I'll give it to you. Then you got to say, what did you do the last two games? If he's going to get all the credit, I think it was more on Darnold than it was on than Kevin the last two games, certainly. But O'Connell's got to take part of it, put him in a better position.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't break down the 22 why. It seems like we're fascinated with the long downfield pass. Nobody had more, if I have the stat right, more 20-plus yard pass plays this year than the Vikings did. It's like we want to go long, and sometimes I think that requires a quarterback to hang on to the ball a little bit longer.
It does.
And then when you drop back there and you're back and you've taken your 2.5 seconds and you're looking and you got three guys in your face and another one coming around the corner, then you got to make a decision. Do you want me to just throw it? Because people were complaining when he threw interceptions. So then he tries to buy some time and gets sacked. There's no easy answer, I don't think. I do think the offensive line, somebody asked, why do we always have trouble with the offensive line? It's not that the Vikings haven't addressed the offensive line over the year. They have. It's just there's been more misses than hits for this franchise when it comes to offensive line.
They'll get Christian Darrisaw back. Hopefully, he'll be fine. He got hurt in that Rams game, the first Rams game in October, and a huge loss, arguably one of the top three left tackles in the game, and that was a big loss. I mean, they were able to acquire Cam Robinson, who did okay, and I don't think it's anything more than okay. But the interior of that line, again, to me, it kind of gets back to the running game a little bit as well, and how they're going to address that, both from the running back position and more importantly, the offensive line. They only have so many draft picks. There's a lot of money to be had out there. They have to make some decisions about Cam Bynum. Based on Harrison Smith's interview with Ben Lieber in particular after the game last night, pretty emotional. It sounded like he said his goodbyes last night, and he didn't declare anything about what he's going to do. But they have some holes to fill. They got some young players they got to figure out with the defensive backfield, taking care of the linebackers, and they're in pretty good shape overall there. But there's, as there is the case every year, and the Vikings have a pretty good amount of money to spend. But they got to spend it the right way, and that's where they'll start huddling, and Rob Brzezinski and Kwesi and the rest of the gang will be putting their heads together and figuring all this out in March.
They do seem to, I don't want to say they have an aversion to running the ball, but they're a pass-first offense, and when you have Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson, I can understand that. And Aaron Jones had a good season, but he certainly wasn't I don't think he was like, whoa, this guy's so good. He's quality, and I still also think some of that's to do with your offensive line and your run blocking, and it seems like almost an aversion to want to really. I know they want to establish a run, at least they say so, but I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. When you look at the Lions, you think of Jared Goff, airing it out and doing it. Look at the running backs they have in the offensive line. Jahmyr Gibbs has turned into obviously an all-pro type back. Now they get Montgomery back behind that line, and the way they can get around the end. And in a heartbeat, just be gone. And, the Rams have a good running back. The Eagles have Saquon Barkley. So in this day and age where we always
Ravens
hear about...
have Henry?
Yeah. I mean, correct. In this day and age, we hear about, running backs aren't going to be taken in the, maybe one will be taken in the first round. It's still a vital position, especially playoff time. And I think we saw that again last night. The Vikings tried and tried. A couple times I think people are going, why are they trying to run the ball? Well, they couldn't throw it every down because Darnold's going to get sacked 15 times. So they tried to establish something, but the Rams were just too good at beating the front four up front.
During the offseason, there was a talk show host who suggested maybe the Vikings should sign Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, and Saquon Barkley.
It's preposterous.
You actually suggested 5 running backs.
Well, 5, those 3 for sure. Well, you're not going to hit on all 5, but those 5. I also suggested Josh Jacobs, I think, too. But Henry, he's watching from home now, right? He's not playing. Oh, wait, he's still playing.
He definitely still playing.
Well, Joe Mixon, they must have got eliminated, right? Because you can't play with a running. Oh, wait, Houston's still playing, too.
Funny.
Well, Saquon Barkley, right? The Eagles must have got eliminated and make the playoffs. Oh, wait, they're still in. How good would this team be if we had those 3 guys running for us right now?
How broke would this team be if you had all those guys?
Well, they wouldn't be that broke.
They wouldn't?
Well, each guy's making about $9 million a piece.
Making something more than that.
No.
Yeah.
$10 million is the most any of them are making.
They're
the making
phone call you've been waiting
7,
for?
8, $10 million. So you'd have about $40 million invested. And how much do they have? How much do most teams have?
And all those guys, well, guess what? Want the ball. They don't want to share it with their buddies. They want 15, 20 carries a game.
Demo and Jahmyr Gibbs are delighted to share the ball. You know why? Less wear and tear. And if you're getting paid the same money, would you do less work and get the same amount of money, Mark? Yeah, you would. We've been doing it for years. We've been doing it for decades.
What I do? What less work and more money?
Yeah.
How about less work and less money?
Yeah, but what I'm saying, would you like? Would if someone said to you, "I'll pay you what I would pay you to run the ball 30 times.
Sure,
now you only have to
course.
run it 10 times."
Yeah. Except guys' egos get out of it.
The guys check the ego at the door when they've never won a championship. How many rings does Derrick Henry have? None.
0.
Mixon, none. Saquon, none. Right. They've got the wine, the women, the song. They want to win a ship.
Want to win now.
And if you were approached if your agent was approached by a coaching staff and a general manager, here's our plan. You're Philadelphia. We got the best offensive line in pro football. We're going to run you 3 guys in and out.
So you're going to cut like 2 or 3 other people from vital positions in order to have all those running backs. You can't have a 55-man roster.
If you have $40 million invested in one player, a quarterback, and you have $40 million invested in 4 running backs, what's the difference? There is no difference. It's $40 million. Spread it between 4 or give it to one. You're going to give one guy $40 million? Where are you going to get money to field all the other players, Mark? They find a way to do it. That's where your capologist comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's going to do it one of these years. It's going to happen.
I will give you total credit when that happens because it never will.
And by the way, did you pay Tenebbe's $50 yet?
I sure did.
He did immediately.
Venmo.
I love it. He's got Venmo now.
Yeah, I was 3-1 odds. That wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad.
No. Yeah, it was pretty foolish. I do
you
things
did it after week 3 when he got all excited about the Vikings 3-0 start.
I do things for the bit. That's why I took him in spread swing because I just like you do with the Lions. Yeah, ridiculous. I'm not doing that ever.
You're not going to do it again, are you?
No, I'm done. Bit. I'm done with the bid. Yeah, backing up the bus. God.
Try saying this. Repeat after me. The roar has been restored.
Yes, the roar has been restored.
There you go. It's kind of fun, isn't it?
Listen, I told you the night they beat the Texans on that field goal, whatever it was, I said, the Lions just won the Super Bowl tonight. And you went, what? No. Yes, they did.
He says the Lions are going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I'll take the Lions.
Tenebbe, did you bet him on that one? He's taking one of 8 teams.
I want my $50
Lions against
back.
the field, sure.
So you'll bet $50. You're taking the Lions.
You get the Lions, I get the field.
He gets the field.
You're on.
Tenebbe, you're taking that, aren't you?
Well, duh.
It's the field, but they don't have to play all those teams.
No, they don't. You're
right. They have to play Washington, then they have to play the Rams or something. They don't. To get to the Super Bowl, they're not playing 6 other teams. It's not like this is the NBA final, the quarterfinals. You got to beat 3 teams to get there.
Tenebbe, since I kind of brought it up and goaded him after you win, could you give me like $5 of that 50?
I'm just paying for my kids' education with the amount of bets Rosen makes with me.
I just love it.
He just said he wasn't going to do it anymore, and then he immediately makes even.
Well, I'm talking about the Vikings.
Oh, okay.
The Vikings being like you do with the Lions. I take the Vikings and spread swing for the bid. I didn't really want to take the Vikings last night, but I did.
Yeah, but you did.
And I was
once late March comes around, he'll want to bet the Twins to get to the ALCS.
I guarantee you I won't be doing that. No.
You'll have the Wolves getting to the Western Conference Finals.
No, like last year I bet on them in Vegas.
They'll get on a little heater late in the year. Yeah. You'll get all excited.
Well, Tanner will pick the Wild to get to the Stanley Cup Finals, maybe. So when they get Kaprizov back.
Well, that way that team's playing with
all those guys
3
hurt.
or 4 of their best players out, and they're still continuing to win hockey games.
Well, let's hope that one of those teams gives us a good spring because the Twin City fan base has to find another way of getting disappointed.
You were able to say the roar has been restored. Repeat after me here. Skatriots. Say it.
Skatriots.
See, it sounds good. It's fun to say, isn't it?
I love it.
I got another one for you.
All right.
Do you like parades?
Do you like parades?
Yeah.
We're coming.
Because I think we could have one with the Wild. I think we might have a parade coming.
All right.
You saw the numbers, right? The Vikings are the oldest franchise of the Big Four.
I'm quite aware of it.
To not have won a championship.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
We start every season with a montage with the song Chicago, only the beginning, because it's only the beginning. It's only just the start of the season. And then we don't know what we would play if a team won it all. Probably We Are the Champions. We've never had that happen. So we always end every year when we end on a sad note. We play a montage Tennessee puts together to one of our favorite songs of all time. It's by Robert John. It's called Sad Eyes, and we played this at...
Good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.
I'm a fraud.
Yes.
Listen back to any of Common Man's programs by podcasting on the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.